Do you want to hear about the worst mystery book I've ever read? Sit down. It's time to bitch. Ow. Damn it. Ow. Fuck. I was trying to be cool. Hi. I'm Persephone. But you can call me Percy. And normally, I don't like to complain. Well, okay. At least not about creative works, right? Hello? Ooh. Anything else? I love to bitch. I love a good yap session. Both creative mediums, even when I don't like them, I always try to find the good. I think it's important to train that critical muscle in your brain. And there are really two ways to approach media that you really don't like. The first way is to try to find the things that you do like, and why do you like them, and why do they work when the things you don't like so severely don't work? What is the difference? And then two, and the more popular way to approach it, is just learning what not to do. I don't like this, here's the reasons why, here's my argument, and so I'm not going to do that. This, however, the Santa Cruz A Mystery at Sea, this unlocked a secret fucking third thing. This unlocked a rage in me that I have never really experienced while reading a book. Ever. And there have been books that I hate. I didn't expect to get heated, oh my god. So I tried to DNF this book 3 separate times. And the only reason why I didn't is because I posted a picture of it on my community post tab on YouTube, talking about how I was reading it, and the perception of public shaming, even when it is self-imposed and imaginary, is somehow shockingly effective. So I pushed through, and I finished it, hating it the entire fucking time. And when I finished, as I sat there, barely comprehending what I had just read, I realized this wasn't a fucking mystery at all. And I knew what I needed to do. So, my original plan for this video was to chase bridges this thing. I saw this book cover, read the insert, I saw this diva on the back, look at her, oh my god, and I knew I needed to read this, and I thought I was going to read and try to solve the mystery live, but Chase Bridges, he can occasionally solve a mystery. I can't. To save my life, I cannot solve a mystery. I don't know why. I'm a writer, yes. I consider myself a very smart cookie, yes. And I actually really want to write a mystery book, a holiday mystery book of all things. It's a goal of mine. And I've been getting into mysteries, I've been reading more mysteries. But while all of those things are true, while it comes to being a reader, I'm as dumb as a bag of rocks. And I like it that way. I like being taken on a journey. I like being surprised. I don't want to try to figure out the mystery. So I thought it could be fun. Why not try to rub my two brain cells together at high speed? Why not use every tool in my tool belt to try and probably fail, but try my best nonetheless, to solve a fun, silly little holiday mystery? Why not? I made a color-coded spreadsheet for this. Okay? I was taking this so seriously. The plan was to use the spreadsheet, keep it informed, take screenshots, and check in every 10 chapters with theories. Theories, what else do you have in a mystery? But we were going to yap and try to solve this mystery together. Why is the sun now coming out? Hold on, I have an idea. Hell yeah. Actually, fuck yeah, that's a vibe. It made the lighting worse, but I don't care. That is so fun. Disco pumpkin. Hell yeah. Okay, sorry. But what we're gonna do instead is I'm gonna walk you through this holiday mystery as best I can, and we're gonna have a couple check-in breaks between acts, water breaks, if you will, for you guys to go down in the comments and try your hand at solving this mystery. Or whatever the fuck is going on in this book. Anything at all. Anything. Put your comments down below, okay? And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe for more fun book adventures and romance author shenanigans. I still want to do a solve along with me. So if you have any suggestions, drop that down below as well. I won't solve them. I'll be so for real. But I'll try. I will try my best. Happy New Year's, by the way. I've been working on this book since December. So, the summary reads, lottery winner turned amateur sleuth Elvira Meehan and her husband Willie have signed up for a luxury cruise sailing the day after Christmas. Joining them are recently hitched private investigator Reagan Riley and her groom Jack, head of the NYPD case squad. Among the passengers is a group of 50 Mystery Writers fans and lecturers who have signed up for some post-holiday relaxation and what promises to be an intriguing seminar. But their tranquility soon vanishes when an aging fan swears she has spotted the ghost of horror. The deceased mystery writer, to whom the seminar is dedicated. Then another fan disappears. An unexpected storm drives the ship off course, and another ship with no markings is spotted fast approaching. Suddenly, everyone starts to feel like they're smack in the middle of a sinister novel come to life. Come on board and ring in the new year with the Clarks as they steer Santa Cruz towards a hair-raising but happy conclusion. A millionaire turned amateur sleuth on a Christmas-themed cruise. Camp. So fun. So silly. I love a silly little book. Merry Christmas, by the way. I don't think I said it. I said Happy New Year instead. Sorry. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Some important context that I didn't learn until after I finished this book. This is Mary Higgins Clark and Carol Higgins Clark. This is their fourth book in a holiday series that they did for a while. I think that there are 6 in total, but nowhere on the book is that mentioned at all. And that does bring some things into context, like that puts some things into context, but also not really. And I'm still not sure if that knowledge makes this story better or worse. I think I'm in the camp that it doesn't change anything at all. And if I'd gone my rest of my life not knowing that this book was in a series, I wouldn't have been affected either way. Which is not something that you want in, like, a book number 4, you know? But I don't know. Let me know if you think my experience would have been different if I had read all 4 beforehand, all right? And one last thing before we officially jump into it. Happy Valentine's Day. And also probably happy St. Patrick's Day, since it's now March. It's fine. Anyway, we start this book on The Royal Mermaid. The Royal Mermaid. The Royal Mermaid. Anyone who works on the ship is going to be denoted in this blue color, okay? Now, the Royal Mermaid is a small-ish cruise ship for 400 patrons, closer to a mega yacht. Pretty small. It was bought and refurbished by Commodore Randolph Weed. We're going to put him here. A 63-year-old man with 3 ex-wives and an undisclosed, but still way too much, amount of money. Way too much. Because what do you mean you bought a cruise ship and refurbished it completely out of pocket? Completely out of pocket. That don't make no sense. Don't do that. Even if it is more of a mega yacht, I don't care. And what do you mean it costs more to buy the ship and refurbish the ship than it does for it to run for 4 days completely staffed and full at 400 patrons? Something that would cost $30,000 a day on the low end. I'm sorry I phrased this kind of weird. What I mean is, I don't understand why he's shocked. Like, it should cost more. If it doesn't, how much does this cruise cost to run? Some cruise ships cost $1 million to run. I'm lowballing this. I thought way too much about this. I did way too much research. I looked at how much it would cost to buy a yacht, a mini yacht, a mega yacht, a cruise ship, a small cruise ship. How much does it cost to build one? How much does it cost to run one? I looked way too much into this because you know me, I'm the queen of having too many questions about something that no one else gives a fuck about. All right? Especially when it comes to money in books. But I will spare you from all of my research. Just now, I probably have like 15 tabs open right now on my computer that I simply refuse to close. Just in case. Anyway, next we meet Dudley Loomis. He's the cruise director and the main, like, PR man, I think is, like, actual title. He's the PR man of the ship. Now, Dudley is the reason why we are here. It was his idea to have the Santa Cruz be the Royal Mermaid's maiden voyage for good PR. Because the Santa Cruz is a completely free, all-inclusive 4-day cruise from Miami to somewhere in the Bahamas. It was raffled off to people who have done good in the past year, which ranges from people who have donated an obscene amount of money to charity to someone who wrote a newsletter documenting the accomplishments from the past year of her very young underage daughters in a family magazine. We will get there. But you can kind of see why I thought that this was going to be a fun time, a silly, goofy book, right? And there are moments where this book is fun and campy and made me laugh. And then it stops in its tracks and takes itself completely seriously again. It's almost like it was written by two completely different people and no editor. Next we meet Eric Manchester. He is given a high-level officer job on the ship, which Dudley is really bitter about. Dudley does not like Eric at all. He's actually really rather suspicious of him from day one, and Dudley's a little self-aware. He chalks it up to being jealous about this hot, young Nepo baby with no talent who's getting paid more than him, even though Dudley has much more experience, which, valid crash out. You know, if you're gonna be a Nepo baby, you gotta at least put that money to good use, learn a talent or two, you know? But Eric doesn't. He just wants to be hot and young. So Dudley, however, in a moment of being a little silly, a little overworked, one might say, he forgets to reach out to one of the most important guests on the ship until about 4 days where they're supposed to leave. The one person who won her place on the ship at a charity auction by donating an obscene amount of money. Someone who donates more in a year than anyone else on the ship. I have too much power. I shouldn't have been given this. But luckily for Dudley, Elvira Meehan and Willie Meehan are really a happy-go-lucky couple, and as multimillionaires, a last-minute trip is more of a fun surprise over an inconvenience. So it works out. And multimillionaires, you say, yeah, so Elvira was, and I'm going to probably pronounce her name 17 different ways. Elvira. I don't know how it's pronounced. If you know, let me know. And if it's your name, I'm so sorry. It's a beautiful name. I just can't pronounce it. But Elvira and Willie Meehan, like I said, happy-go-lucky couple and multimillionaires. Yeah, so Elvira started her life as a cleaning lady. And then one day she won the lotto. She won $40 million. Didn't do the math. Once taxes were taken out, I probably should have. Still, multimillionaire. And since then, she has become an occasional columnist and an amateur sleuth. Now, what does that mean? I still don't know. I don't know. How are you an amateur sleuth? How are you an occasional columnist? Do you just write a column and send it in, whenever you want? Because a columnist, is a full-time job. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is how she meets some of her very best friends. Nora Reagan Riley. She is a super, super famous, bestseller suspense mystery writer, right? And her husband, Luke Riley. He is a funeral director who was once kidnapped and held for ransom by a disgruntled heir of one of his clients. And I believe he was held in a sarcophagus, but I could be making that up for drama. Now, Luke was found by Jack Riley. No relation whatsoever. I'm gonna light this on fire. So, Luke is the head of the Major Case Squad of New York City. So, he, with the help of Elvira, was able to find Luke when he was kidnapped. Okay? And because of this case and this unlikely team up, Jack ends up falling in love with Luke and Nora's daughter, Reagan Riley. Riley Camp, honestly. And I can't help but stand the fact that she chose to hyphenate her name to be Riley. That's crazy, and that's the crazy I like. Okay? I love that. And I think because of that, she is my third favorite character, but her name is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I will be completely honest. Now, why is all of this information important? It's not. It's not. It actually barely comes up again. Ever. And I think now in retrospect, it's low-key like cluing us in that there are other books in this series. And while that thought did cross my mind for a split second, just because of how this info was dumped, all of this info, these characters felt so flat that even with all that info, and yes, I am including the kidnapping and being held for hostage in a sarcophagus in New York City, I remember thinking, there's no way that there is enough information here to fill up any other book. I think it's just kind of like fun flavor, fun backstory. Take that information, what you will. But these are our main characters, our Scooby Squad, if you will. And they are being represented in green. Because I like green. You can't see Willie. I'm so sorry, buddy. Hold on. Can I go lower? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Now, originally only Elvira and Willie were going to board the Royal Mermaid, right? But since they are celebrities, and Elvira is an occasional columnist and Dudley is a man of PR, he calls them last minute and as an apology offers them 2 extra rooms aboard the ship for them to bring 4 friends along. Hence the hesitant party of 6. I don't know why it was 4 instead of 2. Why not just 1 extra room? Whatever. But that means that Elvira has to convince the Rileys and the Rileys at the last minute to come along. And they do end up convincing them by showing them this newly refurbished ship. It's beautiful, and it has all the same things that the big ships have. It has a helicopter pad and a rock climbing wall and all the bells and whistles. And eventually they do say yes, assumedly only because Willie says that they're gonna rent a private jet to leave on Monday morning or Friday morning, whatever day that they leave. Yeah, they're gonna rent a private jet from New York to Miami. Stop it. Don't do that. And so everyone agrees to go, so the trip is booked. Even though Elvira mentions in her inner dialogue that this might not be a good idea because at a separate, unrelated charity auction, she won a reading from a psychic that said, quote, "I see a tub, a large tub. You're not safe in it. Listen to me. Your body must not be surrounded by water until after the new year. You must only take showers." And like, even if you're not superstitious, I feel like if you got a cold reading from a stranger that said to not be surrounded by large bodies of water, and then at the last minute, like 2 days before you need to go on this trip, type last minute call, that, oh, by the way, you got a free cruise, don't forget. I think most people would be like, how about a rain check? No, I lost the disco pumpkin. I didn't realize when. Okay, everyone say bye, disco pumpkin. Bye, disco pumpkin. Also, fun fact, this book starts on December 19th, and it's mentioned that after the cruise, Jack and Reagan, Riley, are gonna go meet up with some friends in Lake Tahoe to go skiing. And on December 19th, while reading this book for the first time, like the day I started this book, I was in Lake Tahoe with my family to watch them go skiing. I can't ski, I'm disabled. I have chronic pain. But I was watching my family ski. Now, what does that have to do with the book? Absolutely nothing. Other than it was kind of spooky to me. And me only. And I will say I almost filmed this video Blair Witch style in our Airbnb because we got rained in for a few days and we had nothing else to do. And I only didn't because I got elevation sickness. But the thought was there. The vision was there, okay? Anyway, back to Eric. Dudley was right to be judgy of Eric because Eric is being suspicious as hell because he's being paid $1 million a night to stow away white-collar criminal Baron Highbridge and runaway crime boss Bullseye Tony Pinto, who I will only ever refer to by his full name. I will be completely honest, his name was one of the driving forces that got me through this book because every time I saw the name Bullseye Tony Pinto in print, oh, it gave me a good giggle. thought it was so silly, and I love him. It would give me just a second wind to keep going, you know? Although I will say, crazy choice from Eric that your first foray into crime in general is to harbor two massive, physically and reputationally, criminals in his living quarters on his uncle's ship on the maiden voyage. Fucking crazy. But I mean, $1 million, it do be $1 million, you know, and especially in 2005. But unfortunately for Eric, Dudley actually gave away the 2 extra rooms on the ship to the Meehans right here without realizing that the ship was fully booked, completely booked. So Eric, at the last minute, has to forfeit his room to bunk in his uncle's guest room. But the boys right here, where are they gonna go? Eric is scrambling to figure that out. Back to the Meehans and the Rileys and the Rileys. They are prepping for cocktail hour. The Rileys are situated in their rooms, no problems. Same with the Rileys. The Meehans, on the other hand, have to wait for Winston, Commodore Weed's personal private butler. They have to wait as he, like, frantically turns down the room. Turn down means to, like, clean and reset the room, right? So he's turning down the room. And so while waiting, the Meehans actually overhear him complain about having junk food wrappers like chips and cookies, and they think nothing of it, the Meehans. They think nothing of it. And there's, like, almost a moment of tension as Winston thinks to himself, how could someone so fit and health conscious like Eric eat this much fucking junk food? Almost a moment of tension. But we know that it was the boys, TM, because we saw them. And at this point, Eric has shoved the boys into his guest room's private bathroom together. And so they're just mushed up against each other, which is the start of a gay crime boss dark romance if I've ever heard it. Also, complete side note, where are my cruise goers at? Cruise goers, show of hands. I have a question, and I will continue to have questions for you, so have your fingers semi-ready. But first one is for cruise commodores specifically, which I don't even know if that's a thing. Honestly, Commodore Weed, I will call him the Commodore because the book calls him a Commodore. He is not a Commodore. A Commodore owns, like, a fleet of ships. Owns or is in charge of a fleet of ships. He owns a single ship. He's not a Commodore. He just calls himself that to make him feel more important. We'll get into that. But if you are a cruise Commodore, I have a question for you. Or if you know a cruise Commodore, ask them this on my behalf. Do you have guest rooms in your suites, and do they have their own private bathroom? Because, see, I could look it up, but I have no idea how I would even begin to ask that question in a way that I could then fact check it. You know? Anyway, everyone makes it to cocktail hour in one piece, but it does not stay that way for long because Dudley here, the great PR man that he is, has called every local news outlet that he can think of, and they all show up. All right? And because of all of the hullabaloo of them all showing up, the police also show up for takeoff, whatever it's called. Which, because the police are there, it causes one of the waiters that's serving hors d'oeuvres, it causes one of those waiters to take off running and jump overboard. This is not one of the boys, by the way. This is a completely third, unrelated criminal who just happened to be here. And also, criminal is, it's low-key, like, too strong of a word, because he's not, like, a hardened criminal. We learned that this man is years behind paying his alimony and his child support, so there is a warrant out for his arrest, but he's not a criminal, technically, I guess. He's just a bad dude. He doesn't get a name card. We never learn his name, and he's not important. He has very, like, little impact on the plot. I'm only mentioning him because, one, what do you mean you jumped overboard and you're fine? How big is the ship, right? Because that's, like, a big fall, and if you don't know how to hit the water, like, you can go splat, right? Okay? 2, sir, it's not all about you. It's not. It's really, really not. I'm sure no one would have recognized you. You're not that important. literally get over yourself. But I can see why you're so behind on child support. Okay? And 3, because of this leads to Dudley wanting to create a distraction by demonstrating the climbing wall. Except he ends up falling on his ass in front of everyone, including every single newscaster. So that's fun. And then even after all of that, Commodore Weed still rips Dudley a new one for hiring a criminal, because how dare you not do a background check? And Dudley must have fucking lost his spine in the fall, because he just bows his head and says, yes sir, my mistake, when it was Eric's job. Eric's job was in charge of hiring and doing background checks, and he just didn't do it. So Dudley had to hire people like incredibly last minute. Messy, the three of them, incredibly messy. Don't light on fire, please. Okay. My tape fell. Okay, there's no real good place to put this, but Commodore Weed, after he calms down, goes to the navigation room of the ship and is just so excited to be living his dream of owning a cruise ship. He's not driving it. He's not captain. He's just standing there to feel important. We'll get into it later. I have so many thoughts on Commodore Reed. But while he's just kind of standing there doing nothing, he makes eye contact with Harry Carter. He's one of the oldest and wealthiest people on board, and they actually never state why he's on board. But he's important, like, a little bit later, and he's not mentioned again until then, so it's really easy to forget about him. And I considered holding his character card until he comes up later in, like, a few chapters, but personally, I care about making this as coherent as possible for you guys, hence the name cards that are color-coded. Purple, by the way, is just other guests on the ship. And then red is for bad guy. But yeah, I care about making this coherent and understandable and digestible for you guys. So I'm unweaving and reweaving certain parts of the story, not to change the context, but rather to either add tension or to make this enjoyable for you guys, because the story jumps around. It jumps around a lot, okay? Oh my god. Whoa, candle. Yeah. It's food time. Everyone say hi to lady. Say hi, lady. Yeah, are you hungry? Yes, ma'am. I have to go feed the cat. Now, our felons are here in red for dramatic effect, but not to be confused with our Santas. Ted Cannon, our first Santa. I picked light blue because I wanted the felons to be in red, and I don't know, ice. Ted Cannon is a 58-year-old widow who plays Santa every year because of his dead wife. She mentioned that as he got older and got a little pudgier and his beard and his hair turned completely white, why not play Santa and bring joy to people every holiday season? And now, he is now one of the 10 Santas on the ship. Hence, the Santa Cruise. We have Santas on a cruise. Now, why are there Santas on the cruise? Simply so we can call it the Santa Cruise. Marketing, baby. Dudley, PR genius. All right? Marketing, SEO, branding, if you will. And while we're talking about Ted and like his beard turning white and why not play Santa, at this mall that I worked at for a little bit, they had a Santa every year, and apparently it was known to like be a good Santa. I don't know, I don't have kids, but I saw him once in the parking garage, and he rolled up already fully decked out in Santa gear with the hat, the suit, the boots, everything. Everything. He rolled up in this tiny bright red vintage sports car of some kind. I wish I took a picture. I didn't. But he rocked up. And it's a convertible, right? So the back is down. He reaches in the back, pulls out a sack, throws it over his shoulder, and walks to the elevator to go do a shift. And as I'm walking, the back of the car, it is detailed with Santa's sled or something along the line. Really fucking cute car. Really cute car. And the commitment, man. The commitment. He seems so cool, man. I want to be that kind of old person. Dang. Anyway, back to the Santa Cruise. Now, all of the Santas were invited via raffle, under the pretense of a thank you for the joy that you bring people in these trying times, of the joy you bring children and the work that you do, right? Thank you for being Santa. But when they get there, they are told, hey guys, I know we told you this trip was completely free and all included as like a thank you, and in exchange, all we ask is that you wear our Santa costumes for the first cocktail hour so we can celebrate you. I know that that's what we said, but do you do you think that you could possibly wear the Santa suits like the rest of the trip? Please? Which led to a fight. Naturally, I would fight personally between all of the Santas, headed by our second Santa, Bill Grimes. He immediately kicks up a fuss. Oh, he is out of frame. Whatever. He immediately kicks up a fuss. Rightfully so, in my opinion. Because I, too, would kick up a fuss. Because not only do they feel that they have been duped, but when they go to pick up their costumes, there's only 8 costumes, but 10 of them. Oh no. So not only are they being asked to work, but now they have to arrange amongst themselves, 10 strangers. Mind you, they have to arrange shifts and costume changes and handoffs, and when is that going to happen, and who gets the breaks, and do we need backups, and blah, blah, blah. They have to arrange that all amongst themselves. I would crash out. Luckily for not them, Ted is a peaceful man. He's a peaceful mediator, and he ends up speaking to their Santa hearts, and everyone agrees that it means more to them to bring joy to people as Santa over unpaid labor. Could never be me. Never. Even for an all-expenses paid cruise. Nope, could never be me. I don't care. Because I would be so suspicious that if I give an inch, they're gonna yank a mile, you know? So, because what's next? You want me to pass out candy to people instead of lounging by the pool? No, I'm not doing that. Anyway, the gang. They're all getting ready for the first dinner of the trip. Jack and Rake and Riley, after the excitement of the server diving overboard, they decide to put on the news while they get ready, just to see. But instead of learning about the guy who jumped overboard, they end up learning about 2 felons that escaped Miami and are now on the run. Now, Jack, being the head of the major case squad, he has an international phone on him. That's how they describe it. Not a satellite phone, an international phone. Which in 2005, I imagine, is just a fucking brick in your bag. And like with this being set in 2005, I don't know if he would have that on him on a planned vacation out of office on a cruise. You know? I feel like it's expensive to run. And they'd be like, no, give it to the guy in charge while you're away. There has to be a second in command. Anyway, doesn't matter. He has the phone. He calls the office. And they are like, why are you calling us? You're on a cruise. But Jack calls the office and he asks them, can they look into Bullseye Tony Pinto and Baron Highbridge? Because he is suspicious that they might try to use the cruise ship as an escape since they left out of the port of Miami. Which, he has no fucking reason to think this other than vibes. And I have since learned how fucking big the port of Miami is and how many ships, not just cruise ships, how many ships in general leave from there on a daily basis. And that makes this even more fucking ridiculous. Insane thought to have. Anyway, he sets up his laptop. He has to like hardwire. They talk about setting up this laptop like it's like rocket science. Only Jack can do it. It's so difficult. They just into the internet. They just plug it in. It's not that hard. But he sets up his laptop. It's a bigger deal. He tells his office, send him anything that they find about these 2. The Rileys go down to dinner. The Meehans, while getting ready, find a deck of cards in their nightstand, in the drawer of their nightstand. Willie pockets it, and then they too go down to dinner. And that is the first 10 chapters of the book, minus any auxiliary information that I didn't deem important, like visual descriptions, a lot of character background stuff that's not important, and most people's ages. I think I've only said Commodore Weed's age. I decided to spare you from most of that stuff, but I need you to know that at first, when I was taking notes, I was noting down everyone's ages because of how much it was brought up. I was convinced that to solve the mystery, ages were going to play an important part. That someone who was supposed to be 60 was going to do a fucking backflip or something. Like, I was convinced. It's not important. It's not important even a little. I would like to take this moment to ask you to put in the comments down below any guesses that you might have to solving this mystery. Anything at all? Or any guesses that you might have as to what the mystery even is at this point? Because by this point, I had no idea. Back to the story. We learned about another felon named, I almost said Bilbo Baggins. Bingo Mullins. We're on to Act 2. I should move the camera back. I'm little. Bingo Mullins. He's another felon. He works with Bullseye Tony Pinto and is the cousin and the gopher to Highbridge. Yeah, Baron Highbridge. I'm assuming gopher is like, you do what I tell you type things. But Bingo met Eric at a party last night in Miami, and that is how the boys ended up on The Royal Mermaid. I know you were just dying to know, how did Twunk Eric end up with harboring criminals? Now you know. Speaking of Eric, Alvera and Willie, they run into him on their way down to dinner, and they ask him about the playing cards. He says he has no idea what they're talking about, and he scurries away, which seems very unlike him, even to them, as people who don't know him. Seems out of character. And then, as he passes Winston down the hallway, he's being rude and snippy, which makes Winston suspicious of him as well. Only after Eric is down another floor does he realize, ooh, those cards probably belong to Bullseye Tony Pinto, and he probably would want them back. Whoopsie. But right now, everyone's going down to dinner, so Eric can't go and get them. He's actually using this time to hide the boys in the ship's chapel. The guest bathroom was just a little too tight for them. They got a little too friendly, if you know what I mean, in my opinion. And also, Winston needed to clean the room, and Eric couldn't tell him no without raising more suspicion. So at the last minute, he hides them in the chapel. And also, unfortunately for him, the boys are hungry and are complaining about it the entire way down. So Eric has his hands full. Now, at dinner, we meet the next third of the cast, starting with Aldana Dietz. We're covering Willie a little bit, don't worry about it. Now, I don't have a lot of strong feelings either way for many of the characters on this board, and there are so many, except for Aldana and her two devil spawn children, Frederica and Gwendolyn Dietz. And because of my hatred for them, well, that makes them my 2 second favorite characters in the book, obviously. This is our mommy blogger. And I'll be so for real with you, I don't understand why she's on the ship at all. See, okay, because she won an award from a family magazine for sending out a Christmas letter describing in detail the lives and the accomplishments of her 2 daughters, who are 7 and 8 years old, mind you. And like, sure, they volunteered in like a retirement home, maybe, but you know that Aldana was writing to show off her little prodigies, her little loves with their musical talents, and they sing every Sunday in choir, and they play 3 instruments each, and they each speak 3 different languages, blah 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 shit. You know that's what she was writing for, not their philanthropic escapades, okay? And even then, unless they did something like extraordinary, which it's never mentioned that they did, but unless they did something extraordinary, I don't understand why she's here. I don't. Now, the gang at dinner meets the Dietz, both of them, the mom and the dad. He's here, he's not important. But no one out of the 6 like or believe Aldana about her perfect little prodigies. Good, in my opinion. And also at dinner, they learn about the Oklahoma Readers and Writers Group, another group on the ship, who are here celebrating and honoring the member of famous boxer turned mystery writer and my favorite character, Left Hook Louie. I just love his name. The OK Readers and Writers Group are going to be represented in pink. And the OK Group did a lot of charity in Left Hook Louie's name after he died. So that's why they're here, and that's why they're choosing to use this trip to celebrate and honor his life. I don't think he was a part of the group. I think he was just like a local author who they liked. And from other snippets that we see, it seems like he was involved with the group in some way, but he wasn't in the group, you know what I mean? But that's why they're here. Our girl Nora here actually met Left Hook Louie at her first book ever signing event. First ever book signing event. There we go. He was at the next table over, also signing a book, had a line down the block and around the corner, and he saw that no one was in her line. It's her debut novel. And she thinks that he must have felt bad for her. And so when there was a lull, he stood up, walked over, hugged her, and very loudly stated how much he loved her new book and how excited he was that he got to read it and how excited he was to meet her, right? And people immediately flocked to her table to get signed copies, and that's a moment that she considers set her on track for her successful authorship career, which I love. After the appetizer, but before dinner, Grimes, our grumpy Santa, is already drunk. And as Commodore Weed and Dudley are making announcements to try to soothe over the nervous guests about the big bad criminal who jumped overboard today, Grimes takes this moment to walk on stage, yank the mic out of their hand, and announce, and I quote, "That's not the only criminal on board. 2 of the Santa suits went missing. So ladies, hold your jewels close because we got a thief on board." End quote. And I imagine he says it just like that. In my personal opinion, chaos ensues at dinner. But we don't get to see it because we jump back to Harry Carter. It's been a few chapters. We jump back to Harry Carter. Henry. Is it Henry or Harry? I wrote Harry, so we're going to go with that, but my notes say Henry. But Carter. We jump back to Carter. He tries to make a call on his international phone, but no one answers. So he decides to reapply some gray paste to his face. It's a direct quote, gray paste. And then he heads out to dinner. But as he's walking out, he gets a call back where he makes plans to fake a medical emergency at 1 a.m. tomorrow sharp. He is going to call his private helicopter. So we now know that this is not Harry Carter, but we do not know who he is or why. Where is he? Yeah. Who he is or why he is impersonating Harry. Now, in my opinion, this would have been a great moment to play with the ages that I so diligently noted down by making him do a backflip or something. But no, alas, we are simply told that it's not Harry. And that's it. Back to the dinner. We meet some more members of the OK Readers and Writers group. Ivy Pickering and her roommate, Maggie Quirk. Yes, that sign says Maddie. Her name is Maggie. Maggie. I don't know how I did that. I really don't. And the rest of the video, I do flip between calling her Maddie and Maggie. Same with Harry and Henry. I just flip back and forth. I don't know how I did that. But at the same time, there are so many characters here. I'm not that surprised that I did that. I'll be completely honest. But that's my bad. My bad. And Maggie, I think, is a great example of what I mean about the ages being brought up so deliberately all the time. So when we meet Maggie, we are told that she joined this group, the OK Readers and Writers group, 3 years after her boring-ass husband served her divorce papers at her 50th birthday party because he thought that she was too boring and he wanted more excitement in his life. And we're told that she lives a much more exciting life than he does, so why the fuck did he divorce her? But good riddance. We don't need to know that. It doesn't help build her out at all. It never comes up again. But it's like a full page and a half worth of information. When there are this many characters, that's too much. That's too much. And this isn't even all of them. And every single character has an intro like that, where it's just way too much information about their age and their life and a description of what they look like for like a page and a half that is never brought up again. You can see why I have so many notes and why I so diligently wrote down every single person's age. I couldn't tell what was and what wasn't important. To me, it all felt important. Whatever. Back to Ivy. So, Ivy. She is incredibly excited that there's a thief on board because, see, she is a huge mystery fan, which means she is a big fan of our girl Nora right here. But not just that, she is also a huge fan of Elvira, and she wants to be an amateur sleuth, just like her. She was already hoping to introduce herself to the gang once she heard that they were on the ship, but now she is secretly hoping that there might be a mystery to solve, and if she's lucky, she can hang out with her heroes and help them solve the mystery. She can be one of the Scooby Gang, right? Unfortunately, her excitement about there being a thief on board gets her bullied by her friend Maggie and the vice president of the group, Tommy Layton, who does have, where is it? Who does have a name card, but I'm not gonna put him up there. But Tommy Layton. And if you haven't noticed yet, the characters that are on the wall are the characters who put their hands on the plot in some way or another. That the plot couldn't move forward without this character doing something, right? So technically, Tommy Layton should go on the wall because, well, I'll tell you why in a second. He should go on the wall, but we're running out of space. But he's there in our hearts. But so Tommy and Maggie make fun of Ivy so much so that she gets up and leaves during dinner and decides to go on a walk to like calm down. Like she's really upset about them bullying her, right? And she decides on this walk to go and check out the chapel while it's empty in order to include it in her email to her devout Catholic mother. Being on this ship is one of the most exciting things that's ever happened to her. She gets to go for free. She never thought she'd be able to go on a cruise. So she wants to tell her mom everything. And she's like, oh, my mom would love to know about this, right? And I think this moment just kind of shows how this book is a masterclass of like how to show the author's hand. Because nothing happens because the characters have motivation, but rather because the author says so, right? She could have ended up at the church by accident. She could have gone just to go cool herself off and ended up there by chance. She was already leaving because she was upset. We don't also have to throw in, and also her mother, and also this, and also there's a reason why she's here, I promise. We don't need that detail. She could just have been Catholic herself. She could just be nosy. I would absolutely go to the chapel on a cruise ship just because I've never been on a cruise ship before, you know? But no, she needs like this 3-step reason as to why she has to be there. And it just feels a little contrived. But she walks into the church and she sees our boys, Bullseye Tony Pinto, not in his Santa suit, but rather in his boxers doing jumping jacks. Ivy screams, takes off running. She runs back into dinner, telling everyone she just saw the ghost of Left Hook Louie, because you see, Bullseye Tony Pinto and Left Hook Louie are a dead ringer for one another, pun intended. A fact that Reagan clocked like 3 fucking chapters ago. But this is played as if we have no idea who it could possibly be in the chapel. Shut the fuck up. But we saw when Eric moved them into the chapel. We saw when Reagan made the connection that the two of them, Bullseye Tony Pinto and Left Hook Louie, look similar. Because Bullseye Tony Pinto has been on the news and she saw a picture of Left Hook Louie at the dinner. There's a picture of him hung up. Before Ivy walks into the chapel, there's a whole chapter where we see the boys bitching and moaning about how they're paying too much money to be sitting under a table, itchy and cold. We see when Bullseye Tony Pinto makes the decision to strip into his boxers out of his Santa suit and do jumping jacks to try and warm up. And then after this, we immediately see them freak out and try to sneak out of the chapel. I have spared you guys for most of it. But just know that we are checking in with these two every other fucking chapter. There's never any suspense in this book, because any time that there could be suspense, just know that we saw the setup beforehand of what tension-filled thing was going to happen, and then the next chapter we are told exactly what happened in case we couldn't put 2 and 2 together. And the chapters are like 5 pages apiece. Like, it's insane. It's insane. And do you want to know the worst part? This isn't even the worst thing about the book. Don't worry, we will get there. Back to Ivy. She comes running back into the dinner, shaken, saying she saw the ghost of Left Hook Louie, and her friends once again laugh at her. Ugh. But Elvira is like, no, she came in a little too hot. Let's just go check it out. Why not? So the gang, all 6 of them, and the Commodore go to take a look in the chapel. But they only find a little bell under the altar where Ivy said she saw the ghost doing jumping jacks. Except they don't call it a bell. They call it, and I quote, a small hollow ball with a slit in it and a marble-like ball on the inside. And at this point, I don't know if the book is calling me stupid or not. Like, what the fuck? Just call it a bell. But Dudley, not only does he know that it's a bell, first off, but he also knows it's a bell specifically from one of the Santa suits. But he doesn't say anything, because all he can think about is, oh my god, this is gonna be a PR disaster, and my butt still hurts from falling on it. So I'm keeping this information to myself, right? Stupid idea, but whatever. Back to Ivy. So even though Ivy is like incredibly shaken from fear, there is still a little part of her that's like secretly stoked to be hanging out with her heroes. She is literally arm in arm with Nora, and she's like, oh my god, a famous mystery writer, you know? And I think her fake ass friends, Maddie and Tommy, I think that they're just jealous, because when she makes it back to the dinner, her friends are like, sorry Ivy, we thought you were making it up. They say that they thought that she was making it up because she talked about wanting to put a mystery on board for them to solve as like a fun game. Sure guys, whatever you say. Anyway, back to Aldana and Harry. Okay, so Harry eventually makes it down to dinner, where he is sat in between Gwendolyn and Frederica Dietz, at the insistence of Aldana and the Commodore, due to their work with the elderly, I guess. Good snore, mama. And it's never stated, but I do think that it is safe to assume that a woman like Aldana, who knows how to work her angles, so to say, metaphorically, I think it's safe to say that she would know the name Billionaire Harry Carter, and knows how good it'll sound in her next Christmas letter, you know? And the girls, who have only ever been told that everything that they do is correct and revolutionary, well, they have no chill whatsoever, even for children. And I like children. I don't know, punt these little shits off the boat. Just a little punt. They're little, I could do it. But anyway, Harry makes it down to dinner, and the girls jump in to help without being asked and without telling. They go, he pulls out his chair to sit down, and they pull it out even more to help him sit, and so he eats shit. He eats shit so hard he throws out his back. Harry, now in the ship's infirmary. Cut to the boys. They've escaped the chapel, and they have now gone to the Lido deck. They're on the hunt for food, and on the Lido deck, they find the midnight buffet being set up. Cruise goers, let me know, is that a thing? A midnight buffet on the Lido deck? Do any of those words mean anything to you? Feels like a code. But unfortunately for the boys, since dinner is still going on, the food is not ready yet. So they can only grab cheese and grapes, and off they go to hide out in the mini golf course behind a mini barn to eat their spoils. Unfortunately for them, a storm is a-brewing, and as they are sitting there, getting soaked, trying to stay upright, they're being like thrown back and forth, Highbridge thinks to himself, I'm rich. I have more than enough money, and instead of duping investors to like try to get ahead in life, try to get more money, I should have just gone to therapy. And a little too late in the game, but we love a self-reflective king, I guess. And this was in 2005, where going to therapy was only for crazy people, you know? So we love a progressive king. A progressive and self-reflective king, yes sir. Back to Elvira. She adorns her rainbow flower pin that has a secret microphone embedded into the petals to party consent be damned. We are on the open water. A lawless place. And in a conversation with Ted, Santa number 1, she realizes that his Santa hat has 2 matching bells that match the one that they found in the chapel. Reagan Riley, my third favorite character. At this point, she clocks that Dudley should have recognized the Santa bell, since he's the one in charge of the Santa costumes, and that he is obviously playing dumb. But to this, I counter, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, and unless the bell is unique, where like one of the, at the end of the slit, unless that's cut into like a heart or a star, it's a generic bell. It's Christmas. They're everywhere. I don't subscribe to this idea that she knows that Dudley is lying because of this fact, personally. Lastly, Eric. Against his will and to keep up appearances, he goes to check on Harry in the medical clinic, where he meets, where am I going to put this man? He meets Dr. Gilgeffer. I don't know where I'm going to put him. The doctor. Can I put him here? Is that crazy? Yeah, that placement makes sense. All right, so Dr. Geffart, right here, he pulls Eric aside and tells him that this old man, Harry, he is super toned and has perfect vitals, and that is suspicious for a man in his late 80s. He should not have that. Eric, too busy to care. He doesn't give a damn. He's like, why are you telling me this? And then makes an excuse to leave because he has misplaced his 2 felons and he needs to go find them. So, off he goes. And we're going to take a quick pause here for a quick little bevy break. And so you guys can now put your second guesses for the mystery in the comments. Go ahead. Because we are 22 chapters in at this point. So, who did it? What did they do? What is the mystery? Any and all guesses welcome down below, and I promise you I have not withheld any important information at all. At all. The only thing I've withheld is ages, physical descriptions, and again, auxiliary background information that is never brought up again, ever. I will say Alvera is canonically thick and busty and looks good in a tight blue cocktail dress. In case that offers any new context for your guesses. All guesses in? Perfect. Let's move on to Act 3. This is technically not Act 3, like, structurally in the story, but you'll see why I'm counting it as its own section as we move along. I trust that you'll see why. Anyway, Alvera is back in her room and decides to use her little microphone to record a recollection of her day. Instead of writing it down, she just records it just in case. And weirdly, since Willie right here, I know he's partially covered and my head covers him most of the time, but Willie is sleeping. So she decides to go out into the hallway where anyone and everyone could hear her. No one does, but someone fucking should have. Like, why are you going outside? Go in the bathroom. Or hold the microphone up here and talk quietly into it. It can hear you, I promise. Like, I just needed to point this out to show just how not good at this she is. But after she records the recollection of her day, she goes back inside to see that Willie actually fell asleep while playing a game of solitaire. And she, like the good wife she is, decides to clean them up very carefully so that he can continue the game when he wakes up. In picking them up, she sees something weird on the cards. On the face cards, there's this weird halo-like situation that isn't printed. It's written on the cards and it's microscopic, but it catches the light weird. And so she goes to the bathroom where it has one of those accordion mirrors that has like the 20x zoom, and she turns the light on and she realizes that the scribbles that she sees are numbers, but not just any numbers. They're numbers that are written backwards in a tiny font, which is not something that you do accidentally. I mean, you might, but most people don't. Meaning that someone else must have been in that suite besides Eric, which normally I would give her shit for this, but because he was so rude and dismissive about the cards, well, that's not the behavior of someone who meticulously took time to write out these numbers. These cards don't belong to Eric, and someone would probably want them back. But before we can see her tell anyone about this, whiplash, we are back in Miami and we are meeting Bianca Garcia. I don't know where the fuck she's gonna go. That has to be good enough. But Bianca Garcia, she is a pretty plucky young reporter who wants to be a news anchor but hasn't been given the chance to fully show her chops. Luckily for her, she was put on the Royal Mermaid Story as like this filler fluff piece for the evening news. And that means that she was the first to report on the waiter diving overboard. What was that about? And suddenly there's drama. And now, instead of turning in a 30-second story for the anchor to read, she now gets to come on the evening news and tell the story herself. And in an attempt to soak up the limelight, telling a bit about the history of the ship. And she tells us about the Royal Mermaid's original owner, Angus Mac McDuffie. There is a method to the madness of the placement. By the way, I know I have space up there. There's a method to the madness, I promise. Angus Mac McDuffie was a millionaire, multimillionaire, who loved his ship a little too much. And at the end of his life, once he could no longer sail, he actually stored the ship in his backyard, which required it to be deconstructed in the water and then reconstructed on land, which is not important at all, other than that means that Commodore Weed had to pay for it to then be deconstructed on land and reconstructed in the water, which again just makes me wonder, how much did this cost? Randolph? Anyway, Mac died on the ship. Apparently, he would always be sunbathing in his underwear, and so he died doing what he loved on the main deck, getting crispy. And because Bianca reports on this on the nightly news, she gets an email from Loretta Marin, who, like Tommy, well, no, I'll put her up there. I was gonna say she's not getting put on the wall, but she has a little bit more to do with this than Tommy did. She's behind the flower. Do I need the flower lamp on right now? I don't know. I thought it was kind of cozy with it on, but with the overhead lights, I think it's just hurting instead of helping. Anyway, Loretta, she is one of the readers of the OK Readers and Writers groups, and she emails Bianca telling her that Ivy saw a ghost on board. She tells her that Ivy swears up and down that she saw the ghost of Left Hook Louie on board last night, and Loretta, the smart cookie that she is, sends Bianca a picture of Left Hook Louie. And she doesn't send just any picture. No. She sends a picture of the Left Hook Louie sitting at a typewriter in nothing but a pair of tartan boxer shorts and a pair of his boxing gloves flung over his shoulder. And wouldn't you just know it, Mac and Left Hook Louie could be twins. And now Bianca, the businesswoman that she is, she sees this as an opportunity to keep the story going. She wants to report on the possibility of the ship being haunted, because apparently a ghost story is worth a time slot on the Six Claws News. And god damn it, I wish it was. I wish it was. Back to the boat. Not super important, but the Commodore is crying about his ship being on the news because in his opinion they're making fun of him, when in the reality Bianca's just reporting on what happened. It's not all about you, buddy. It's not. And from here on out, I need you to know that he just gives me a permanent ick the rest of the book. Icky, but we will get there, don't you worry. Eric also gives me the ick, but for different reasons. At this point in the story, he's giving me the ick because he is out looking for his felons in the rain, but he doesn't want to be seen on the Lido deck. I don't remember how he gets to the Lido deck. It's a big ship, but he's on the Lido deck, and he doesn't want to be seen. So in the rain, he gets down on all fours in his all-white work uniform, and he just starts crawling. And in order to signal secretly to his felons that he's the one looking for them, he decides to start whistling Christmas carols. And doesn't that just give you the fucking ick? And it's not like one thing individually that he's doing. It's rather the combination of all three makes me fucking hate him. It's just, stand the fuck up, use your big boy voice, and why are you dirty? Ew. Anyway, he finds his felons, and he knows that Carter is going to be in the medical clinic all night, so he decides to hide his felons in Carter's room. Back to Jack and Reagan Riley. He is still thinking, what if Bullseye Tony is on this ship? And he still has no reason to think that. None whatsoever. Back to Eric. The Commodore has been paging him for like an hour, looking for him, but he finally decides to show up completely soaking wet and dirty from being on all fours. But he finally decides to show up, and the Commodore is crying over his dead mother. Now, I'm sorry, and this is going to come off a little insensitive, but I do not give a damn about his dead mama. I don't. Why is it just being brought up in Act 3 of the book? Because Apparently, it has been his lifelong dream, since she died, I should say, but lifelong dream since she died, to scatter his mother's ashes out on sea, specifically after he owned a cruise ship. And he is crying his eyes out over this. It's embarrassing how hard he is crying over how this has been his dream, because his mother loved cruises and he loved his mother, and he thought this maiden voyage was the perfect place to bid his mother, this angel, this do-gooder, to bid her farewell, finally. Not once does he ever say what makes her a do-gooder. Whether she was kind to people in life, whether she helped people, whether she donated to charity, whether she was a philanthropist, nothing. Just his perfect mommy. And according to him, having everyone laugh at him, even though no one is paying, is so disrespectful to the memory of his mommy. It's upsetting him. I hate this man. He is acting like he put his blood, sweat, and tears into this ship, but he couldn't even bring himself to be the one to ask the Santas the favor of working on their vacation that they earned. They won it via raffle, but they earned it. They're there because of things that they chose to go out and do. But no, he made Dudley do it because he couldn't bear the thought of being the bad guy. Shut the fuck up. Oh my god. Stop crying. All the Commodore has done is play dress up and go stand next to the captain. Also, I'm wearing green to be like, the submarine cruise is what I wear. This is what I would wear. You know what I mean? But I thought about it as I turned on the camera. I should have bought like a cruise captain, like a ship captain hat, but I didn't think about it in time. So just imagine that that's what I'm wearing. I'm wearing like a little captain's hat. Okay? Please and thank you. Anyway, all he has done is play dress up and go stand next to the captain to feel important. But he hasn't done anything to be important, and now he's crying about it. God. So he's sitting there crying, and I'm sitting here disgusted by this man. God, stand up. Stand up. He's also, like, weird when it comes to his mom. You know what I mean? And at first, I was like, ooh, an interesting characterization. A silly choice, but okay. But the more I read, the more I don't think that we are supposed to think that he's weird about his mom. We're supposed to be like, oh my god, the poor Commodore. The poor man. He's having such a hard time. No. I hate that man. But I will talk more about this a little later, don't you worry. Back to the boys. Bullseye Tony Pinto is starting to get a little nervous that Bingo Mellons is going to rat them out because he has learned from the news that there is now a reward associated with any information it comes to finding them, right? And so, in Carter's room, to quell his anxiety, he starts drinking up Carter's scotch to relax. And when he runs out, he starts to go through Carter's stuff, looking for more, but oh, Bullseye Tony finds a Glock. Interesting. How convenient. That is his favorite handheld accessory, after all. But as he pockets said accessory, he starts to think, that's a little weird for this old man to have in his bag. And so he starts digging through more stuff. And he realizes, man, this old guy, Carter, he's packed like weirdly lightly for 4 days on a cruise. He has nothing but a bunch of gray makeup, 3 extra large jackets, and a single tux. And that's it. He also finds what I think is a briefcase or like a travel bag. It's described as a box with a zipper on 3 sides but no handles. And when Bullseye Tony Pinto opens said case, it's full of money and 3 passports showing 3 different men. But nay, 'tis not 3 different men, 'tis all one man hiding under expert makeup application. But unlucky for this man, Bullseye Tony Pinto knows this man like the back of his hand. Eddie Gordon, also known as the man who murdered his father, Tony Pinto Sr., and the man who Bullseye Tony has been looking for the past 15 years. Pinto Sr. also has a card, but I'm not putting him up, but just know he's there. In the next room over, Ted Cannon is depressed about his dead wife, as he is known to do. But instead of laying there in the dark, working himself up into a depressive episode, he actually works himself up into optimism. Could never be me. But mid-wallow, he thinks of his son and how his son told him that he likes to wallow in self-pity and let himself be down in the dumps. Once he's down, he lets himself be down. He lays down, basically. Which, he lost the love of his life 5 years ago. It hasn't been that long. Like, let the man grieve, you know, but it's his son. It's a son and father relationship. What do I know? But in this moment, he thinks of his son and how he's right. He does allow himself to wallow probably longer than he should. And he ends up thinking about Maggie and how she's cute and nice. And apparently she's getting up for a run tomorrow at 6 a.m. So Ted, our boy Ted, he sets his alarm for 5:30 a.m. And he tries to ignore all the noise next door, and he tries to get some shut-eye so he can wake up early to go meet her, which is cute. That is very cute. So 3:45 a.m. Maggie is awoken by Ivy sitting at the edge of her bed, feeling horribly seasick because, again, the storm that is raging. Ivy is having a hard time standing. She needs help. Maggie decides to go down to the infirmary to Dr. Gillert Gaffart. Apologies to that man. So she decided to go down to the infirmary to get sick patches and a wet washcloth for Ivy to try to help her sleep. 3:30 a.m. That was at 3:45. Now, back 50 minutes. Bullseye Tony Pinto. He throws on a robe, some shades, and a towel around his neck, and decides to head down to the infirmary, where he uses a pillow to try to smother Eddie Gordon / Harry Carter / maybe Henry Carter, while saying, "This is for you, papa." And let it be known, he tries to smother him while also strangling him through the pillow, which I don't think that's how smothering works. But what do I know? I'm not a crime lord, allegedly. But mid-smothering, he hears someone show up in the infirmary and ring the bell. Ding, I need help. Which means that the nurse, who also has a nameplate but it just says nurse, I'm not putting her up, but just know. Actually, no, she's a queen. She deserves to be up there. I'll tell you why in a second. This part of the board is just getting so cluttered. But the sound of the bell means that the nurse is going to be pulled from the room that she was in. She was helping someone else. She's going to get pulled from that room back into the main part of the infirmary, and she's going to run into Bullseye, so he has to skedaddle. And skedaddle he do. 5:45 a.m.-ish. Elvira is trying to corner Eric and question him on the way to breakfast. But she's being real fucking weird about it, I'll be completely honest. Quote, "Don't you just love the early morning light? I swear, my brain just tingles when I get up with the birds. I guess you know I have a reputation of being an amateur sleuth." End quote. Why the fuck would you say that? That's an exact quote. Not only why the fuck would you say that in general, why the fuck would you say that to the guy that you're suspicious of? Like, huh? I swear, she says that she's an amateur sleuth and everyone else says that she's an amateur sleuth, but she's not good at this, in my opinion. 6:04 a.m. Elvira makes it to the Lido deck for the breakfast buffet, where she runs into a tall, skinny Santa who only has one bell on her hat. So she goes running after him. Hey, stop! But she slips on the wet deck and eats shit, whacking her head on the floor really fucking hard, actually. Hard enough to pass out. But before she passes out, she sees her vision start to go dark, and she just clicks on her flower microphone and records what she saw, and then darkness succumbs her. When she wakes up, she's in the infirmary, Willie doubtfully there behind her, and she immediately tells him the Santa was tall and skinny, relatively to the other Santas, like Ted. And Willie says it couldn't have been Ted, because as Willie walked onto the Lido deck, the people he was passing was Ted and Maggie being all chummy after a run. And he saw them 2 seconds before he turned and saw Elvira eat shit and hit her head. Now, while in the infirmary, Elvira calls in the Rileys and the Rileys and Ted and Maggie for some reason. These ones I understand. Those I don't understand so much, but whatever. Now, while they're all in the infirmary room, the nurse comes in and ends up mentioning that Maggie was the last visitor of the infirmary last night. To which Maggie says, "But what about that man?" Man? What man? There's no record of another man in the infirmary last night. It was just Maggie. Well, what did he look like? And now Maggie, all bashful and a little ashamed, says, "Well, he looked like Left Hook Louie." Gasp! Go ahead, gasp. 6:30 a.m. Eric has the boys back in the chapel. He puts them in the chapel, waits for Winston and the Commodore to clear out so he can sneak them back into his room. Bullseye, once again, is like, hey man, I need my fucking cards. He's mentioned this 3 times now. I don't know if I mentioned the other times, but he's mentioned this like 3 times now. 6:50 a.m. now. Eric is in the infirmary checking on Carter/Gordon. But Carter is like, leave me the fuck alone. If you want to help me, find my phone. I lost it when I fell yesterday and I need it. Get it for me or leave me alone. Dr. Gefford, on the other hand, pulls Eric into his office and tells him someone tried to murder Carter last night. He can tell from the bruises on Carter's neck and the fact that he can barely talk this morning signals that someone tried to hurt him. But Carter denies it through and through. He just woke up like that. The doctor tells Eric, we need to sound the alarm. There is someone dangerous on this ship. And Eric says, no, we're not going to do that. We don't want to worry people. It's no big deal. He says, nothing happened. Don't piss me the fuck off. And the doctor, at this point, admits it sounds silly, but it's worth pointing out that this is now the 2nd time someone has said that they have seen Left Hook Louie on the ship. And of course, Elvira is in her infirmary room. Everyone's left, and she's just kind of sitting there going, oh boy, it's a good thing I'm here to overhear this. Cut to Jack and Reagan Riley. They call Dudley to ask him for a meeting on the Lido deck, where, while waiting, they ask one of the waiters, hey, did you see the bad Santa this morning? The one who ran away after Elvira hit her head. The waiter says, quote, yeah, he was one of the first and the only that came to Midnight Buffet the night before, and one of the first this morning to look for food, end quote. So they pocket that information, and then Jack asks Dudley for a list of passengers in order to have his office run everyone's name on board, because our crew thinks that they officially have a stowaway. 7:30 a.m. Gwendolyn and Frederica Dietz are awoken by Carter/Gordon's phone going off. And they answer it. The little shits fucking answer it. And and I hate these children. I love that I hate these children, but I hate them. This genuinely pissed me off, because not only did they keep his phone when he dropped at dinner the night before, that's not yours. You could have handed that to him. Don't do that. Not only did they choose to keep it, but they answer it. They're like, hello, Uncle Harry's phone. And you want to know why this pisses me off? Because I have a reason. I do. Because obviously their mother is the reason why they call him Uncle Harry. And the idea of telling your children to call this stranger aunt or uncle anything, but especially when you have young children as an older man, it's like, no, that's your uncle. Take care of him, hang out with him, love him. That's your uncle. That's family. You don't know him. You don't know him. To teach your children to be so overly confident and comfortable with strangers is just, it makes me itch. It makes me itch. I hate it. I hate it so much. Don't let my little stature fool you right now. Like, it makes me want to pick a fight with their mom. Like, oh my, why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's so dumb. And I don't mean calling someone older, auntie or tita or tia, respectfully. Like, I mean specifically aunt or uncle's first name. It's very different. If you don't come from a culture where this is common, calling a stranger a term of endearment, it is specifically, like, there are rules to it. It is specifically someone older, either a little or a lot older, but older usually, and it's out of respect. And it is specifically someone who shares a similar culture with you, whether that be like nationality, ethnicity, or like subculture. You know, it is someone who shares a culture with you. It's a way to say, I see you, we come from the same tree, we are similar in that way, we are bonded by that shared experience. And it is specifically out of respect. And if this is someone you come across and you get to know them, then you can call them tia, name, first name, nickname, whatever. And then, as part of this exchange, there is usually a term of endearment in return to the younger person, like mija or baby. Oh my god. When an older black woman calls you baby, okay baby, oh my god, I feel like I can run through a wall. I feel unstoppable. I love when an old black woman calls me baby. Anyway, It's the entitlement to familiarity with people that you don't know or share anything with that is pissing me the fuck off. And specifically because this is coming from a place of your own personal betterment and standing and reputation at the expense and safety of your children. I hate this bitch. I hate her so much. And actually, I learned this recently from Hank Green from a clip of his podcast, Ask Hank Anything, where I forgot who the fuck he was talking to, but he talked about the feeling of someone going over and touching your phone, like if you're holding your phone and someone comes over and touches it, and the feeling that comes with that is because we are cyborgs and this is a part of us. And so someone coming up and touching it without you telling them that's okay feels like a violation of consent because it's a part of our bodies and we don't like that. So the more you know. And I think that's why I had such a visceral reaction to them answering his phone without permission. I expected for there to be more differences between 2005 and 2025. Because when I read it in 2025. But I didn't expect it to be that one. Back to the story. If you needed more proof that Ildana hates her children, these children either have a room to themselves, which feels illegal. I think it is. Because they're so young. Or they were left alone in the room by themselves, which is also illegal. So she hates her kids, all this to say. But anyway, because they're left unsupervised, these kids are able to just leave whenever they want. They go to the infirmary to look for Carter. These parents don't love these kids, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. And I low-key love it because it's the most consistent part of the story is how much these parents don't love these kids. It's crazy. Anyway, these demons spawn end up throwing a fit because the baddie nurse, the baddie that she is, she refuses to give them Carter's room number. Oh, it felt so good. It felt so good for them to be told no. They're sitting there screaming, kicking, stomping their feet, throwing a fit because that's their uncle. They deserve to know. But she will not move an inch. She's like, no, you're not family. Fuck off. Oh, I love it. I love how much everyone hates these children. But they end up grabbing a nearby phone and they call the operator of the ship. They ask their call to be transferred to him. They're able to call him and bully him into telling them his room number because he hangs up on them. They end up to call him twice. But they're like, we have your phone and we have a message for you and we won't tell you what it is unless you let us come and visit you. So he tells them and they go to drop off the phone, telling him that his personal physician called this morning. And in dropping off the phone, they drop off like 1 million handmade get well soon cards and they leave literally skipping away hand in hand. Devil spawn, these two. And I don't know which author it was, either Mary Higgins Clark or Carol Higgins Clark. They knew what they were doing with these kids. But back to the Commodore. He's watching the morning news and he sees Mrs. Bullseye Tony Pinto. She's on the news crying, asking for help, insisting that the stress from his trial is what made Mr. Bullseye Tony Pinto have a mental breakdown, and he's probably he didn't run away. He had a mental breakdown and he's probably wandering around somewhere lost and confused, and if anyone knows anything, please let her know. She just wants her husband back. Yada yada yada. Now Bianca, our girl Bianca, now she's on the news, but she is essentially live tweeting rumors that are circling on the ship, and she makes sure to like drop in the drop a like if you think it's Left Hook Louie, or subscribe if you think it's Mac McDuffie who's causing all the problems on the ship, which I can't help but appreciate and realize that we have always been exactly who we are. Even back in 2005, we were still fishing for those likes and subscribes. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps me a lot, and it lets me know if you like what I'm doing. Thank you. But so, Commodore, watching the news, right? Dudley shows up. Where's my stick? Dudley shows up mid-news and asks Winston if they could have a private moment. The Dudley and Commodore read, right? To which Winston judges the fuck out of Dudley for taking his coffee in a mug as opposed to a fine china teacup like the Commodore, and it makes him like a lower peasant, which is not important to the story at all, but it does reinforce my irreparable ick of the Commodore, I will say. And I also want to make it very clear that the way this book is written, we are privy to every single person's internal thoughts and internal monologue, no matter whose POV it is, and it will just slip in as part of the prose, and it drives me fucking crazy. There's no italic, there's no quote, there is no, not the, what's the one where it's like the quote, but it's not the 2 lines, it's the one. There's not that. There's nothing to signal that this is someone's internal thoughts. It is just part of the prose, and it drives me fucking crazy. I hate it so much. Oh my god, I hate it. But Dudley ends up telling the Commodore everything that happened last night, because no one thought to tell him at all that there was an attempted murder last night / this morning. But not just that Eric, because Dudley talked to the doctor, he knows that Eric knows that there was an attempted murder last night, and he decided to say nothing and to keep it secret. Things are moving. All the Commodore can think about is, how can someone be so mean and leak this gossip to the press? Oh my god. And my eyes rolled so far back into my head that I got a fucking migraine. I hate this man so much. Because again, the news is still playing, and he's not listening to Dudley about the attempted murder. He's listening to all the rumors running on the ship that there's a ghost haunting and ruining everything. Now, Dudley, the PR man that he is, tells the Commodore that maybe a way to tamp down the gossip is that he should tell the news about this heartwarming story about Mama Weed's ashes. As if the news cares about this random man's dead mom over ghost and gossip? Come on, Dudley. Be so fucking for real. And not just that, but apparently he thinks that everyone on the ship has to care about this. Everyone's gonna care. Huh? Because the 2 of them, they're inviting / kind of forcing all 400 guests to come to a celebration of life for Mama Weed. Keep in mind, which apparently was gonna happen this entire time. This was always the plan. We didn't just mention that this was gonna happen, that it was a ship-wide celebration. No, it's part of the pamphlet. Not my fault you didn't read it. Like, sorry dude, I don't want to grieve your dead mom on my vacation. Even if you paid for it. I'm sorry, I didn't know her. Back to Carter / Gordon. He calls his accomplices and he asks for an extraction early. He asked for an extraction ahead of the plan being finished because someone tried to kill him. He tries to keep calm and sound in charge, but that's kind of hard when his voice sounds like shit, first off. But he's trying really, really, really hard to not let, like, the cronies know that he's not the big boss, a part of this plan. He's not in charge. The henchmen have no idea about her. They don't know that she exists and that she is the one in charge. We also don't know who she is, so, like, you didn't miss anything, I promise. We don't know who she is, and we don't know what the plan is with Gordon. Now, Carter, when he got this phone call, he turned on the TV and stepped to the other side of the room so that no one outside the room could hear him talking. They would only hear the TV, right? But that means that he sees for the first time that Mr. Bullseye Tony Pinto is on the run. He has broken free from his enclosure, which makes Carter start to panic. And not just panic, but he is suddenly flooded with a memory. He remembered that Mr. Tony Pinto Sr. had a wife who had a brother who was a boxer, who became a mystery writer after he retired. A brother like Left Hook Louie. And now, just like that, Eddie Gordon is 100% certain that Bullseye Tony Pinto was on the ship impersonating his dead, estranged uncle, and that he was the one who tried to murder him last night in his sleep. And this is where I started to crash out. This is when my head started hurting, and I had to put the book down for a few days because what the fuck do you mean? What do you mean that these two look 100% alike because of some weird what do you mean? Keep in mind, this all takes place on a cruise ship coming out of Miami, and every single person on the board is native to New York except for probably Bianca and Angus Mac McDuffie. Anyway, all of our heroes, because remember, these guys still exist, all of our heroes head back to Elvira and Willie's room so that she can lay down but still be part of the Scooby Gang. Eventually, they realize that they have to summon all of the Santas and check all of their hats to make sure that, like, everyone is okay. All the Santas are summoned, all the hats are belled, and now the Santas are involved, and now the Santas are pissed. Because not only is someone stealing Santa valor, but while dressed as Santa, while wearing the beard, you watched as a woman fell and hit her head and you didn't stop to help? Oh my God, how dare you? How dare you besmirch the Santa name? God, you are not worthy of wearing the Santa hat, sir. The Santas are out for blood. I'm waving this around a lot. I really hope that my audio is not fucked. All the Santas are given pins to wear so that even while they are wearing fake beards, they can be identified at a glance as a real Santa and not a faux Santa. And they're so riled up and they want to help make the Commodore's dream come true of having a cruise ship. I don't know why this matters to them personally, but it's part of their battle cry. It's just kind of roped in. Not only are we going to avenge the name of Santa and catch these faux Santas, but also you, the Commodore. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of and you're babied and that your cruise goes off without a hitch and you get to say bye to your mommy. But so it was in their battle cry. I have to mention it, okay? Especially because all 8 of the Santas, because remember there's only 8 suits, all 8 of them volunteer to escort the Commodore to the chapel for one last prayer before he says goodbye to his mommy, which again, all 400 people are required to attend. Cruise goers, I am once again asking you to weigh in. Is this normal cruise behavior? Also, if you were on a cruise and it was free, keep in mind, there's 400 of you, it's free, and the guy who's paying for it was like, hey, come say goodbye to my dead mom, would you go? I probably would stop by, but I really fucking wouldn't want to. I would like to say that I wouldn't go, but I would probably stop by. I would. Now, as everyone is finalizing plans, we learned that the Commodore is not actually sprinkling his mother's ashes into the ocean. No, nay. She is in a little silver jewelry box that he is going to chuck into the ocean. And he says because apparently ashes are not eco-friendly, which is not true, by the way. But he said it's not eco-friendly, so he put her in a silver box to save the environment. Because throwing a big silver box isn't littering, but throwing ashes, shut the And it's not just a silver box, because keep in mind, this is human remains, so they're probably tied up nicely in a plastic bag inside that silver box that he is chucking. Dumb man. I hate him. Also, apparently the box is big enough to hold in your hand, like, it's a jewelry box, right? So you can, like, grip it, right? You can grip it with your grippers. This is not important whatsoever, but you know me. Human remains, cremated humans, we make a lot of ash. A lot. For pottery, for instance, if you are to throw an urn, you're usually told to do like 2 liters to 3 liters to be encased, because again, clay shrinks. But that's like how big you want to throw it, just because they're big. Like my great grandmother's urn, she was a small woman, but it was like that tall, maybe. But I only mentioned this because where the fuck is the rest of her? If it's in a little box that you can like just pick up, like where the fuck is she? That's not all of her. It might have been mentioned in the book. I could have missed it just because I was being pissed off at this man. The point of this, all this complaining, all this bitching, is the silver box. That's why I'm mentioning it, because of the silver box. Because Ivy's mother, Ivy, our girl over here, Ivy's mother has the same jewelry box. She has the exact same silver jewelry box, and the Commodore stays in the chapel after everyone else leaves to just have a moment alone with his mother, right? This is why he actually built the chapel on the ship, which I didn't question why there was a chapel on the ship, because that makes sense. People have, college campuses have chapels that can be used for any religion, so I would assume that a ship would do something similar, just because everyone practices differently, you know what I mean? But to have a designated sacred place for everyone to share, like, that makes sense to me. And this was 2005, so it was probably just like a Catholic or a Christian chapel, but like having a designated space, it makes sense to me. Okay, it makes sense. But apparently to the Commodore, he wouldn't have had it if it wasn't the fact that his mother died. Whatever. Ivy stays behind and wants to talk to the Commodore because she just wants to say thank you, that this is the nicest thing that has ever happened in her life, and she was so grateful to be on the ship because she didn't come for money. She never thought she would ever be able to afford a trip on a cruise, so she's really grateful. And she decides to sit with him, and she mentions, what a beautiful box, my mother has a similar box. And then they sit in quiet reverence and they bond a little bit. They sit together. But then Eric, this motherfucker, ends up running in and ruining the moment, because of course he does. The Commodore's like, hey Eric, I haven't seen you in a minute, where the fuck you been? And Eric is like, oh, I'm so sorry, uncle, I'm so sorry, with everything that's been going on, I've just been running around looking after our guests to make sure that no one is in want of anything, right? And the Commodore's like, oh, my sweet boy, hey, let's catch up, come join me for tea before grandma's, I almost said throwing away ceremony. Oh my god. No, I'm not that insensitive. Before grandma's celebration of life. Come have tea with me. Let's sit and talk. And he invites Ivy as well. And Eric is like, absolutely. Just give me a minute to say a prayer for grandma. Just in peace. Like, I'll meet you up there. Right? So Commodore and Ivy leave. Eric is alone. And out from under the table comes Bullseye Tony Pinto and Baron Highbridge. To which Bullseye says, and I quote, it sounds like your uncle is a nutcase, end quote. So true, bestie. So true. Back to Elvira. Finally, back to Elvira. She's in her room watching the news. Again, concussed. She is laying down, but not sleeping. On the news, she sees the Bullseye Tony Pinto news that he's escaped, and she starts putting two and two together with that concussed noggin of hers. Eric, at one point, ends up calling her room, asking for the cards. He's like, I'm so sorry, it was my friend, I forgot we were playing, they're his cards, they're not mine, but we were playing something like poker before the ship took off, so I completely forgot. And so he asked for them, and Elvira is like, oh, absolutely, Willie has them, actually, he's out getting food, but who is it? Who's the friend? Because when Willie comes back, he can just go out and give it to them. Like, you don't have to worry about it. We can do it for you. And Eric is like, no. Don't worry about it. This is my mistake. I should have taken them from you. It's my mistake to fix. When Willie comes back, just call and let me know, and I will come and pick them up from you. Like, don't worry. Don't worry your pretty little head. But Elvira doesn't believe him, and she is now officially suspicious of Eric. Back to Bianca. She ends up getting a letter from a woman named Kimmy Keating. She's just gonna go right there because she's behind me and she's not that important, but she's important enough to put on the wall. Kimmy Keating says her and her mother went to the estate sale of Angus Mac McDuffie, and they ended up buying a journal. And in it, he had written that his family squandered the family fortune buying a famous jewelry box that he knew had been stolen from a museum in London, and that this box was known to belong to Cleopatra, given to her by her lover Mark Antony. After finding this journal, Kimmy and her mother ended up asking the estate for an itemized list of every item that was for sale, and they did not see a jewelry box on that itemized list. I mean, it's not like family members come in before the estate sale happens, taking away valuables and then putting things up for sale. No, never. That couldn't possibly happen. No, it just means that the box is missing. But whatever, Kimmy is writing to place her vote, to click that like button, if you will, to vote that it is Angus Mac McDuffie that is haunting the ship, obviously. He is hunting for his missing treasure, unable to be put to rest until he finds it again. And so now Bianca is pivoting and turning the story away from the gossip, because what do people love more than gossip and a ghost story? A missing treasure story. Naturally, okay? Again, she was reporting this at the prime 6 o'clock news. Prime spot. A ghost treasure hunting story. Slow news day, I guess. Back to Jack and Co. In the Riley room, everyone's there now. Ted mentions that last night in Carter's room, he heard someone watching the TV. He heard someone watching the TV and opening and closing drawers. He assumed that Carter had come back early from the infirmary last night. But now we know that no, he was there all night. Getting moited. So who was in the room? Who could it possibly be? So Jack calls his office and he's having them run a background check on Carter, right? Now, Elvira is up and moving and walking against doctor's orders, because of course she is. But she ends up telling Jack and Reagan about the numbers on the cards. Her and Willie are there and they're talking about the cards, and she shows it to them, and how Eric called her room asking for the cards. Again, he brushed them off before. He said, fuck you, I didn't want them, and now he's trying to get them back at all cost. So Reagan is like, Elvira, lie the fuck down. And she takes the cards and she goes into the bathroom and she looks at them in the mirror and she jots down every single number and what they are written on, like which card they're written on, right? Smart girl, Reagan. And while doing this, Reagan gets a call from her best friend, Kit. I'm going to show you because I like how I wrote that K, but fuck you, Kate, you're not getting put on the wall. I don't have room for you. But she calls to tell them that she went to a post-Christmas party in Greenwich where everyone was talking about Highbridge. Because a lot of people at the party were cheated and had money stolen from them by him, okay? Which, like, damn, kid, good for you. You had a party with, like, that many rich people and that many high rollers. But the reason why she's calling is because she overheard that Baron and them, the two lovers, that they're on the run to the Caribbean. And she was in a conversation with Highbridge's ex-girlfriend, because of course she fucking was. But while they're in this conversation, Highbridge ends up calling her, and Kit could hear in the background of the phone call that there was a radio blasting and it announced the local temperature in Miami. So naturally, she had to call her friends who were on a cruise from Miami to the Caribbean and tell only them on their vacation this information that she knows, because there are no other ships in the ocean, there are no other ships leaving from Miami port, and there's no one else that she could possibly call with this information. So now Jack is calling his office to see if there's a connection between Highbridge and Bullseye Tony Pinto. What the fuck do you mean that some of the most vital information that our heroes have been given are coming from a complete stranger who has not been mentioned before and only happened to get the information by chance because she happened to be talking to the right person at a party at the right time in New York when this is taking place in Miami? Technically it's taking place in the ocean, but you know what I mean. Like, what do you fucking mean? Back to Eldana hating her children. She's sitting on the edge of the pool while her 7 and 8 year old are running their morning laps in the pool, and she is already sitting there writing next year's letter about how wonderful this cruise is and how integral their daughters are to the experience of the guests on the cruise. And they are integral, I will give you that. But while she's doing that, ignoring her children, the girls are playing splash with anyone unlucky enough to be within arm's reach. They learn about the sunset ceremony that's happening for Mama Weed, and they stop their splashing tirade and they ask their mommy if they can sing at the ceremony. She says they have to go and ask the Commodore themselves, and she sends them off in their bathing suits to a grown man's room alone. This woman hates her children. Oh my fucking god, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And I'm not saying that there's anything sexual about the kids being in bathing suits. Absolutely fucking not. Get your head out of the gutter. I'm saying you don't know this man. You don't know if that man is going to think that it's sexual. You don't know. Anyway, Ivy. She is hanging out with the Commodore in his room, and she is just smitten. She thinks that he is such a manly man, a man her mother would call a big fine fellow. But the more that she spends time with him, the more that she learns that he's just a big softie. She thinks that he is someone who's vulnerable, someone who's soft, someone who deep down just wants to be loved. To which I say, go ask his 3 ex-wives about that one. He does end up mentioning for the second time that he has multiple ex-wives. He doesn't tell Ivy how many, he just says ex-wife, right? I actually had to go back to the beginning of the book to remember how many it was. He mentions to Ivy that his last ex-wife, Reenie, Reeny, I think it's pronounced Reenie, Reenie and him are actually still very friendly, and how she wanted to come on the cruise because she wanted to say goodbye to his mom. She was always very close to her, and she wanted to be able to say goodbye. But the Commodore was like, no, you're not allowed to come. He says it's because he didn't want to spend that much time with his ex-wife. Women, am I right? But this makes Ivy incredibly jealous, and she just ends up thinking, I could take care of him the way that his ex couldn't. Alright. Remember how I said the Commodore gives me the ick and we'll talk about it later? It's later. So, I think this is how the book thinks that you are supposed to think about Commodore Weed. That he's this big, burly man in charge of everyone else, but in private, he has, like, this soft side that women just love. And he does nothing but give me the biggest fucking ick. Like, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not. He gives me the ick. I say that 10 toes down. He just comes off as this huge man baby who can't do anything on his own. And that's why he's so sad about his mommy dying, not because he loves his mom. And I don't know if this cognitive dissonance is intentional or not. I can't tell. I think it's just because we have 2 authors here that come from 2 different generations, and not just how he's written, how he's being perceived with me, but how he's perceived by other characters in the book, right? Everyone sees him as, like, this great man, as he's just kind of throwing a fit. Like, he literally is, like, stomping his feet, throwing a fit. oh, this big man who's being so, shut the fuck up. Like, what the hell? I hate this man. I don't hate him as much as I hate Aldana, you know, the woman who hates her children. I don't hate him as much as I hate her, because that's just a different level, but I hate him very much. Speaking of hate, Devil Spawn, Frederica and Gwendolyn. Luckily, they went to the room first and got dressed, but they curtsy and they come in uninvited. They literally curtsy in unison and they just walk right in, pushing past Winston. They come in saying, not asking, that they want to sing for Mama Weed at her goodbye party, right? And they see the silver box and immediately try to snatch it. Oh, what a pretty box. And they go for it, okay? The only reason they don't get it is because Ivy slams her hand down and goes, no, not yours. Don't do that. And I went, ooh, yes, Ivy, yes, put them in their place. But she doesn't want them to spill Mama Weed's ashes, obviously. And to make them go away, the Commodore has to tell them, okay, yes, you can sing. You can sing at the funeral, and since you're just being so helpful, can you pretty please go and remind everyone else about the ceremony? This is your job. Go remind the 400 other people, on the ship, which, again, everyone hates these children. But they go and check on Uncle Harry, who is in the middle of panicking. He is trying and failing to remain calm because he is terrified. He is terrified of someone he doesn't know. He knows that the big boss has placed someone else on the ship, but he has no idea who it is, and he is so scared that he's going to get in trouble for bailing early. He did not finish his job, and he's trying to get the fuck out. So he's looking over his shoulder constantly. That anxiety, partnered on top of, oh, this man who's been hunting me for 15 years is on this ship, and I'm trapped. Oh no, I'm in danger. But mid-panic attack, the girls show up and they invite him to the ceremony tonight, and he tells, go away, I don't want to talk to you, go away. And they end up mentioning the box. I don't remember how, but they mention the pretty silver box because they wanted to snatch it. And Harry makes note of that, right? He makes note of the box. Now, he has already called for his helicopter and for an extraction at this point. So he's like, I'm not going to this party. But he hears about the box and he's like, actually I can go. So he tells them, yes, I will be there, but my medics will show up halfway through. I want to just stop by and say goodbye on my way home before he has to be whisked away to his personal doctor because he's so frail and so ill. Oh my goodness. He says he's gonna go and just pay respects. It's obvious that he's just going for the box. Cut to Jack and Reagan Riley. They're sitting in at 11 a.m. seminar because, yes, it is still the same morning. But they're sitting in a seminar that is about the art of mystery writing being put on by Dr. P. Breves. He is the author of Left Hook's Louis' biography. And Dr. Breves is trying to lay it on thick because, just like everyone else on the ship, he knows that our main crew is here and he wants to impress them. More specifically, he wants to come off cool to Jack of all of them because he's the head of the special cases squad. He has real life experience solving mysteries. Breves wants Jack to think that he's cool. Even though this seminar is about the art of mystery writing, Breves ends up talking about Left Hook Louis' sister. Her name is Maria, but she married his best friend and fellow criminal Charlie Boy at 18, after which Left Hook Louis and his parents never spoke to her again, even though that was his best friend. Which I don't fucking understand. He was already in your life. Why is this different? You were fine associating with him when he was just a criminal. Now that he's a married criminal, it's worse? Come on, man. But because he's talking about this, Breves ends up putting on the screen a giant picture of Left Hook Louis' entire family. And even though Left Hook Louis didn't have any children of his own, he did end up leaving the life of crime, becoming a boxer. But Charlie Boy Pinto went on to become this huge crime lord, and he was survived by his only son, Bullseye Tony Pinto. Everyone gasp. Thank you. And I do genuinely think that we're supposed to gasp here, even though this was spelled out many chapters ago. And no, this does not count as dramatic irony. It doesn't. Because there is no suspense here, and that is the point of dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when the audience knows something that the characters don't, and it is making you anxious. To steal an example from Chase Bridges and a story that he told about a teacher that told him that two people sitting at a table and suddenly a bomb goes off, there's no tension there. It's just a big kabloom. But if we're in the audience and two people are sitting at a table and we can see the bomb under the table ticking off, as the numbers tick down, we start to get more anxious, knowing that what they don't know, you know, that is dramatic irony. This is not that. This is not that. There's no tension. So yeah, that's his nephew. And this is where the crash out fully starts to set in. I can't fucking do this. You can't talk to me like I'm stupid and then expect me to gasp, okay? And there is like a perfect irony there. It's not the dramatic irony, but there is a perfect irony to the idea of, in the middle of a seminar about the art of mystery writing that never once talks about mystery writing, it is revealed to our main characters, who are meant to be solving a mystery, that there is a secret, unknown, familial connection that is the missing key that helps them solve the mystery completely on accident. Completely on accident. What the fuck, dude? It was too much, and it's still a little too much. It was just so much. And I was left for a moment sitting there staring off into the abyss, wondering, have we circled all the way back to camp? Have we made it all the way back around? No, we haven't. And I hope that you, dear reader, agree with me on that front. We did not make it back to camp. We got lost somewhere along the way. But I have to ask, did any of you get your guesses right? Did any of you, in your predictions, guess secret uncle-nephew connection before it was revealed? Don't lie to me. And secret son doesn't count. It has to be secret nephew. Did any of you guess it? But, well, none of us gasped. Maggie and Ivy dramatically gasp once the pictures go up, and Riley takes off running to tell Dudley and the Meehans that Bullseye is probably on the ship and that they need to do something without alarming everyone. This is the third time that it has been confirmed to our heroes that there is a stowaway on this ship, and I don't understand how they can keep getting away with this. Do you guys forget after you make the connection? Because we've talked about this. We talked about how there's someone stowed away, that someone is probably Bullseye. We've had these suspicions. So why are we gasping exactly? Anyway, they settle on the lie to tell the other patrons that they can't finish the cruise because there's something wrong with the engine, that they're going to stop, resettle, and have to turn back. Okay? And Dudley says that they can offer the passengers another free cruise, a rain check, if you will, as an apology. And Duds, if Commodore Weed doesn't kill you, I will. What the fuck do you mean you're gonna offer them 400 people another free cruise? Are you bleeding money? You got that much money burning a hole in your pocket? Give it to me. Give it to me because you don't know what to do with it. Come on. Jesus. But our heroes, they tell the captain, who is very unfazed by the entire situation, I'll be completely honest. Rather, he is more upset about his mother's ceremony getting interrupted. It's been interrupted twice now. It's just so unfair. The universe is just so mean to him. And so now the plan is to bring the ship to a stop over lunch, move the ceremony up to 2:30, and then turn around. And in this moment, Alvera thinks about telling the Commodore about Eric being guilty and suspicious, and then decides against it. She decides, quote, he will find out soon enough, end quote. To which I say, shut the fuck up and tell him. What do you mean? Because first off, you're not the one to make that call. You're not the one with the experience to know what to do in a situation that's high tension as this. If we do have a crime lord on the ship who's already tried to kill someone, you don't have the authority to say who we do and don't tell what. Jack is the one with the professional training and the professional experience to handle this, first off. Let's get that out of the way. Second, by not telling the Commodore, is he not just gonna go tell Eric, who he assumes is guilt-free, who is going to ruin everything before it kicks off? But whatever, what do I know? Nothing, apparently. I'm not a best-selling mystery writer. Reagan also tells the Meehans what Jack's office has learned, which is the connection between Baron Highbridge and Bullseye Tony Pinto, that it's Bingo Mullins. They have this guy in common. And that they found out that the numbers on the cards, they've bumped back as Swiss bank account numbers. Because of course they did. So, all the plans in place, all gears are moving. We can cut to Eric in his uncle's living room, just suffering. The poor boy. He's sitting there being stressed about the boys and why did he ever do this? He's his uncle's only heir. He's giving a cushy job that's paid well where he doesn't have to do anything but flirt with people. He would have money and cruises and bitches, oh my, and he fucked it all up. He just couldn't keep his nose clean. Again, a little late, but I guess we love a self-reflective king. Then the Commodore comes in, and he adds to Eric's stress by telling him, we have stowaways on the ship. Here's the entire plan of what we're going to do. We're turning back early. And he just tells him everything. And now Eric is like, I'm so sorry, Uncle. I need a moment alone. This is just too much to handle. I'm just so stressed. It's so overwhelming. And the uncle is like, oh, Of course, I completely understand. Take all the time you need. And while he's left alone, he sees the little silver box with his dead grandma in it. And and he starts blaming his grandma for all this. This boils my blood, if you can't tell. I wish I was kidding. He gets fucking mad at her. He gets mad at his dead grandma in this fucking silver box. He tells her this is all her fault because she never loved him and she was never nice to him. So how else? What else he was supposed to do but end up just like this? It's her fault that he turned out this way and makes bad decisions, not his. It's not like he's in his 30s or anything. It's all her fault. It's all a woman's fault. It's never his fault. He did nothing wrong. He's blameless on all this. And you know what? I hope Bullseye Tony Pinto gets you. I hope he gets you when you're not looking. Speaking of Bullseye Tony Pinto, he actually takes back the $1 million that he paid Eric right out of his suitcase. He goes, nope, that's not yours. Now, why didn't Eric deposit at least some of it in the bank? And I know $9,999 is not the same. It pales in comparison to $1 million. But it's something. The point I'm trying to make here, Eric deserves to get bonked in the head and doesn't deserve $1 million. I don't think that's a hot take. He does tell our boys the plan, though, of turning around and how they now have to escape via lifeboat. There's no other option. He, of course, tells the boys this very loudly outside in the hallway, where guess who hears them? Elvira! And instead of walking her curvy ass back inside her room to tell her husband what she just heard, she decides to close the door and try to follow them all by herself. To which Eric finally does something productive and he hits her over the head, but not before saying, quote, "You're not that good an amateur sleuth, Miss Meehan," end quote. And I hate that she made me agree with him, because yeah, you're not that good at this, girl. I'm sorry. Back to the rest of the ship. The ceremony is getting ready to start. Carter goes down to the infirmary and tells the doctor he doesn't feel well. He can feel an asthma attack coming. The doctor obviously doesn't believe him, but Carter wants him to call his helicopter anyway, which he does, and it ends up landing mid-ceremony, and the onboard medic end up just joining the ceremony. Willie, at this point, he's at the ceremony, he's sitting next to an empty chair, and he thinks, it's weird that Elvira hasn't shown up yet. She's probably fine. Which, Willie, you guys are 99% sure that you have violent stowaways on board. A fact that every single person in this party, except for Luke Riley, who has done nothing in this book, but everyone else has come to this fact, independently and together, and you're still like, it's fine. Bitch, what the fuck? And not just that, but every single person in this party has said independently that Elvira has an unnatural ability to get herself into trouble. And you're still like, it's fine, she's a grown woman. Which I agree, she is a grown woman, but like, she's still your wife. Anyway, out of our main party, Reagan is the one who's starting to get her spidey senses tingling about the medics that just landed with Carter. Jack does clock that the medics and Winston make eye contact at one point, and he thinks it's kind of weird, signaling to us, the audience, that Winston is the other man on the ship. But there's no way for Jack to know that. So the fact that he's suspicious, homophobic. Maybe they just want to make out Jack. Men are allowed to kiss. Speaking of men who should kiss, Bullseye Tony and Highbridge. They are mid-escape and are currently peer pressuring Eric to off Elvira with the Glock. Which not only can he not do it, but he also gets bullied by Elvira for not having the guts to do it. And you know what? That made me respect the fuck out of her, I'm not gonna lie. So Bullseye takes the Glock and he's gonna finish the job himself. But before he does, he asks her, "What do you know about Carter?" And she's like, "Huh? What do you mean, what do I know about Carter? He's an old man. Leave him alone." Which is like, yeah, that's so fair to her. That's just an old ass man. We suddenly remember that this is a Christmas story, and they stuff a Santa beard in her mouth. They bind her hands behind her back using a Santa hat. Sure. Go off, kings. So that's all you got. That's all you got. We love being resourceful. But while they're packing up to go, Elvira is able to grab something sharp. I think it's a screw, if I remember correctly. But she's able to grab something sharp and use the point to cut herself free and jump overboard. Which is why we see the guy jump overboard beforehand, to prove that, like, hey, it's not a deadly jump. It's a small ship. You know what I mean? But if the ship is big enough to house 400 patrons and the crew to service 400 patrons, it's not that small of a ship. Just saying, it's not that small of a ship. But she jumps overboard, and despite her bad knees, she hits the water just fine. And she's able to swim under the bow of the ship to the other side. Huh? Once again, you are forcing me to wonder, how big is this fucking ship? I don't think it's the size that you think it is. I think it's much bigger than that because of how many people are on board. The fact that you've told me that there's this many people on board means that it has to be a bigger ship. And she wasn't ready to swim that far. She just jumped off. She wasn't thinking like, okay, I'm gonna jump and go. Like, no, she just jumps, and once she's under, she's like, I have to get to the other side. She doesn't have enough air. Also, she's like in her 60s. She's not an Olympic swimmer. Most people cannot hold their breath that long. This story poses so many questions that it's just not interested in answering. And that's fine, I guess. Anyway, back to the ship. Cut to Dr. Breves. Yeah, I know, you didn't see that one coming. He's in his cabin, intentionally ignoring the celebration of life for Mama Weed, because he's sad. He is sad that his lecture was interrupted by the Rileys just storming out, especially because he wanted to impress Jack, and the fact he didn't see the final slides, and he didn't see the big conclusion. Breves is like, huh. He's sad about it. But because he's in his room, he's able to catch the midday news with our girl, Bianca Garcia. And so he's able to hear the story about the Santa Cruz being haunted by the ghost of Mac McDuffie, looking for his lost treasure, and they're putting up pictures of Mac and Louie and the treasure box that supposedly is there. I don't know how they have a picture of it, but they have a picture of it. And Breves stops that in his tracks. He knows that treasure. He has seen that treasure. Because when Breves first came on the ship, back at the very beginning, he brought a signed copy of his book about Left Hook Louie to the Commodore. A signed copy to the Commodore. I'm assuming as a thank you for the free trip, but the Commodore apparently didn't see it that way because no one has ever said thank you to him this entire time. He shows up trying to say thank you, and the Commodore just starts talking about his dead mom and showing off the beautiful silver box. But Breves, in his socks, which are absolutely going to get wet, and that sounds disgusting, but in his socks, he takes off running, determined to stop the celebration of life at all costs. Cut to Alvera in the water, close to drowning, thinking about the last time she saw her husband, how she didn't get to say goodbye, whatever, not important. Cut back to Breves. He bursts into the celebration of life, screaming, "Don't throw that box overboard, it's worth millions!" Chaos ensues. Carter jumps out of his wheelchair, gasp. He snatches the box, chucks it to one of his friends. Frederica, annoyed that her song was interrupted, she sticks her foot out to trip the medic. Applause. Our heroes and the Santas all spring into action, and a wave of red tackle the two men to the ground. Amazing. But no one knows that Winston is in on this. So he takes this chance. He's free to snatch the box and make a run for it. Gwendolyn, jealous that her sister got to do something cool and she didn't, runs and takes him out by the fucking knees. She tackles this man to the ground. I love them. Whatever is wrong with them, I love it. Everyone cheer. She grabs the box and yells in his face. The Commodore wants his mommy to go in the sea right here. And she chucks the fucking silver box overboard. She throws it as hard as she fucking can over the railing. And it is going straight for Alvera's head, mid-drowning, mind you. Reagan sees Alvera in the water. She grabs a life preserver and she dives over the edge. Breves also sees Alvera and he screams, "Grab the box, it's priceless!" Quote, an exhausted Alvera, who always knew the value of $1, reached out and with a mighty stretch of her arms, caught the box as it hit the water. End quote. Remember, Alvera is mid-drowning right now. Her vision is blurry, black at the edges, and she can only think of her husband, but she still remembered to secure the bag. She might be drowning with her life flashing before her eyes, but we cannot forget that she was poor. Ignore the private jet from chapter 3, please and thank you. Reagan is able to get to Rivera and get her onto the life preserver to hold on to, right? She's literally about to die. She's too weak, she keeps slipping off, but Jack appears. Jack appears from fucking stage left. It is never mentioned that he also jumped overboard or when he got in the water or what, but he is there and he scoops his arm around her and he's able to hold onto the life preserver for both of them. And as she is about to pass out, her vision is fading, she is able to squeak out that the felons are on the other side of the ship in a dinghy making a run for it, right? Fade to black. Now, be honest. How many of you guys guessed in your comments that the mystery was, and I quote, a secret stolen Egyptian treasure being saved by a random professor on board at the 11th hour? I know one of you did. No one? That's okay, me neither. And at this point, I was on the verge of literally shitting my pants because what else was I supposed to do? But don't worry, we're not done. Friday, December 30th. Every single named character in this book, which is most of the people on here, is in the Commodore's room to tell him goodbye and thank you for the trip. I need you to imagine about this many people in your room right now. All talking, all bustling, probably with backpacks on because they're getting ready to disembark. Someone got a backpack, someone got a purse. I would vomit. That's so many people. We need to do this on the Lido deck, not in my private room, okay? But no, the Commodore, he is relishing in the attention. People are finally saying thank you, even though we have proof in the story that multiple people have told him thank you already. But no, it's finally his time. It's his turn. He's relishing it, dude. But in here, we learned the silver box is on its way back to Egypt, and we also learn about the big mysterious her that I'm sure those of you who are drawing and or doing fiber crafts has completely forgotten about. Don't worry. While I was reading this book, I also low-key forgot about her. So she's about to be revealed. Last chance. Put in your guesses. Who do you think she is? Drum roll. Reenie Weed. The Commodore's only ex-wife that he was still on speaking terms with, who wanted to come on the cruise because she was actually close with his mother and loved her a lot and wanted to say goodbye. A character we know next to nothing about. Ta-da, I guess. Twist ending, woohoo. This implication, by the way, means that throughout their entire marriage, she was a crime lord and that she knew that this was going to happen eventually, right? That's why after their marriage, she was still, like, friendly and talking with him because she knew that there would be a thing to steal, right? Like, there's implications that she knew. What the fuck is this implication? What do you mean? It's his ex-wife. Huh? You know what? Whatever. It's time to disembark. It's not my problem anymore. We're off the ship. Yay! The girls, oh, I hate them. They hug the Commodore and they tell him, don't be sad. We're your family now. Maddie and Ted disembark hand in hand. Ivy and Commodore, they share a lingering look. And it looks like we have Mrs. Weed number 4 locked and loaded, which, I mean, given how much money he has, good for her. Get that cruise ship bag. Go on as many cruises as you want, baby girl, you know? Like, good for her. The boys get caught. Eric gets caught. The next 4 cruises on the Royal Mermaid are completely booked and ready to go. They've already been planned. Bianca is there to greet the Santa Cruz as the ship pulls into dock, and this story has launched her into the national news scene. And if she plays her cards right, she's going to be a news anchor. Good for her. Our heroes are probably fine, I guess. I'll be completely honest, I don't remember and they don't show up in my notes anymore. Knowing the story, I'm assuming that they all disembarked hand in hand with their respective partner, being like, we did it, gang, but I can't say that for certain, because all my notes say, like the last thing my notes say is, I'm gonna shit my pants. So, I'm sweating, but that's it. That is the Santa Cruz, a holiday mystery at sea. And I'm left with so many questions. 1, why did Ivy's mom have the exact same jewelry box? Because she did say it was the exact same. 2, what happened to the real Harry Carter? The summary says that then another fan disappears. Like, what fan disappears? And I'm assuming the fan of one of these guys, but no one disappears. There's no unmarked ship in a storm. Like, that doesn't happen. Why is the last 4th of the book its own story, completely unrelated to the first, like, 3/4? Because that's just not how a story works. You can't just add a bunch of shit at the end and pretend it adds up to this grand reveal that wasn't mentioned at all beforehand and go, yay, I did it. I twisted the ending. I scared you guys. Woo! Like, what do you mean? That's not how stories work. And I'm just so confused. When reading this book, it feels like they made up the story as they went and then hit publish. Which is fine if it's a KDP original or it's like a couple bucks, but like a hardcover, traditional published book that was sold at full price is crazy. I didn't pay money for this. Let me get that straight. I didn't pay money for this. It actually, I'll be completely honest. I actually don't know where this came from. It showed up like on a pile of books at my desk with no explanation when I still lived with my parents. And like I can surmise that like someone gave my mom a bunch of books And she took the one she wanted and then put the other ones on my desk, but we never mentioned it. And I was like, hey, where did this come from? She goes, I don't remember. So I genuinely don't know where this came from. But naturally, it shows up. I took it all the time from the universe. I just had to read it. I just had to know. And do I regret it? Yes. Yes, I do. Would I do it again? Probably, unfortunately. Because when a book shows up in your life, you read it. And I'll be completely honest with you. I've read a lot of bad books. I've read bad books that don't know how grammar works. I've read books that speed the plot along, ignoring how plots work to get to the scenes that the author very clearly was just excited about writing. But I've never read a book that was this bad, and especially not this bad in this way, where it just makes shit up at the end, where it just has nothing to do with anything, where there are this many fucking named characters that put their hands on, and including this little pile over here that I didn't put on, that I didn't put on the board. There's a reason why I have all these names up behind me, because this is an obscene amount of characters for how short this book is. This book is 200 some pages, but this is the big text option. Like, look how big that text is. It's big. Like, that's crazy. That's too many characters. That's too many characters. Luke didn't do anything. Why was he here? But he was named, and he was named constantly as if he did something important. I don't remember hearing him talk at all. At all. And with this many characters on the board, I have to ask you, dear reader, who the fuck is the main character? Maybe Elvira? I'm putting my vote in for Reagan Riley, because she's the only one that kind of like did some sleuthing, you know? Elvira was just kind of there. So like, I put my vote in for Reagan Riley and Bullseye Tony Pinto. They're the only ones who are actually like lead characters in the book that actually lead the plot to do something. Everyone else is just kind of touching it. Cut them in half. We don't need this many characters. And I've never read a book that so intentionally took the wind out of its own sails over and over again, and yet still has the gall to call itself suspenseful. It's a book that calls itself a mystery, but never once poses a mystery to be solved. Ever. At all. And that's just, I was left aghast, befuddled, and I felt like I was cheated out of something. You said it's a mystery, let me solve it. But no, it held my hand and called me stupid. So, and normally I would have just like entered this into my book journal or DNF'd it and just moved on. I would have scrapped this video idea normally with any other book, any other circumstance. And that would have been it. I would have washed my hands of it. But then I go and I look up the authors, because Mary Higgins Clark is a familiar name. I've heard that name before. My mom loves her. And I look up the authors, and not just one, but both of them. Both of these divas right here. Look at them. Both of them are in the New Jersey Hall of Fame for being a writer. And I wanted to vomit. I had to go outside in the freezing 50-degree weather. I'm sorry, I'm from California. That's cold to me. I'm so sorry. But I went outside and I put my feet in the pool. Again, I'm from California. But I put my feet in the water until I couldn't feel my toes anymore, so I could pull them out and it would hurt, just so I could feel something. Because I was so overwhelmed and underwhelmed at the same time of what this story and what this book is. I was flustered. I couldn't wrap my head around this. And I'm not trying to say that either of these authors didn't deserve the honor of being put in their local Hall of Fame. Mary wrote over 50 books. She sold millions of copies worldwide. Carol has also had multiple best-selling books under her name. Like, they are decorated and prolific authors that worked their ass off and earned their success from writing. From what I can tell, again, I didn't know them personally. It's just quick research, Google search about them. And apparently 4 out of 5 of these books are all bestsellers. I'm assuming not this one, but 4 out of 5 were bestsellers and people love them. So I don't want this to come off as if I'm saying that like these authors don't deserve success. They don't deserve their accolades, because that's not true. From what I've seen, they're very hardworking individuals that earned their stripes, and for that we should applaud. And I want to be very clear, writing a book is hard. No matter how big, no matter how bad, no matter how complicated or how convoluted writing a book is, it's hard. It's a lot of work. Most people want to write a book, but not everyone sits down and finishes one. As someone who has written, at least coming from someone who has written a book, right? I've written a book. I'm currently writing 2 more, and writing is hard. And so I don't want it to sound like I'm shitting on them. And I think it just kind of shattered my illusion that traditional publishing and bestsellers that linger well past their prime, because again, this came out in 2005, and I still found it, that they have to be good. And I'm not naive. I know Colleen Hoover's books are bestsellers and that she's a multimillionaire with the movies and the books and everything. I'm not blind. I'm well aware that best-selling books can be fucking awful. They can be shit. But those books are at least structured like a story. They at least follow the path of what a story is supposed to be. Not a good story, but a story. And even if it's predictable, they don't tend to fully undercut themselves, making the reading experience completely unbearable. And I guess all this to say is that I've never seen anything quite like this. I've seen books that are bad, I've seen books that make weird choices, I've seen books that make up twist endings to make you try to trick you and to try to make you feel a little stupid. Like, I've seen all that, but to see all that together specifically in this way, in this convoluted way, I just couldn't believe my eyes. And if I had to suffer, so did you, alright? That's the law. I don't make it, I just enforce it. And while there is almost nothing in the universe that could get me to read the other 4 books in this series, I can't knock the work that it takes to write 5 books to begin with, even if this book is fucking bad. And through reading this, in searching for the things that they did well, like my hatred for these little fucks, in searching for the things that did well, and in searching for the things that I don't want to do in my personal writing, in searching for something to learn from this experience, I did at least learn one thing. Write your fucking book. Write the damn thing. Write your damn book. Write it and get it out there, even if it's bad. Just fucking write your damn book. God.